Initially, when you experience something that creates a good amount of longing inside you, and remember what longing is. Longing is a very, very, very intense desire. And remember how desires function. When you desire something, you make this journey to go get it. You just don't desire something and say, oh, well, it looks good. I just want to sit back and just watch it. It doesn't work that way. So whenever there is a desire, and that desire is no longer casual, it has reached the want, it has reached the stage of a need, where now at the stage of need you're just emotionally entangled. That is what a longing is. Your heart is broken and you want it to be healed. And so you do all sorts of things. You sit, you meditate, you pray, you read books, because you want an experience. In other words, you want someone or something to see the sacrifice, to see the brokenness, and then reward you, give you an answer. Now, it's very, very, very difficult where you just long, but you don't get anything in return. There comes a point where your longing begins to sting you. It becomes poisonous. The longing that used to inspire you to write poetry now forces you to have this great amount of anger and hate and disgust towards the object. It's kind of like Aesop's fable, the sour grapes. You have this fox who longs for grapes, and he uses all of his cunningness to get the grapes, but he doesn't. No matter what he does, how much he tries, how intensely his desire for grapes may be, he just can't get them. And then he walks away saying, they probably just suck anyways, they're just bad. And it's the way we cope. There comes a point where you realize your desire is not satisfied, whether the person is not satisfying you, or maybe you just don't have the capacity to make it go. So out of self-respect or self-preservation or survival of your emotional or intellectual, you walk away. Your body basically shuts down. And then you go somewhere, you take a break. And then you say, okay, well, I'm living my life is good, there's nothing wrong with it, but all of a sudden I long for this. Now you go back. You don't leave to go back to life and make your life work. You leave because the longing is so much, you need some kind of a distraction. And like Kierkegaard, you hope that these distractions will just help you forget the whole thing. But very much like Kierkegaard, Carl Castaneda, despite all of his cunningness to distract himself from going back to Don Juan and, forgetting all the things that he had learned from him, he just couldn't. And he goes back. And he stays with Don Juan until the day he dies. It depends on the longing. It depends on how you walk away from the longing. And it depends on how you go back to the longing. I think if your longing has depth, and if your teacher has baptized you in the sense that you're not longing for this thing because you're just lonely and pathetic, because you have no friends, because your parents are dead, or because your parents are divorced, or because you just left your boyfriend or your girlfriend. If your intentions, if the toxins or contaminants have been hammered out, and here you are very clean, and there is your desire, and you genuinely want it, it's just too much work. And it all of a sudden happens to you. It's not like after a month or two you realize it's too much. Little by little you realize there's just too much to give up, too much to sacrifice, too much to lose. And it becomes very frightening, because we are creatures after power, and power gives you knowledge, and knowledge allows you to control your environment. And when you lose what little really you have in life, it's very difficult to just give your life up to someone you hardly know. And they demand just strange things from you. The other thing about longing is, if you can stay in it for a while, it stabilizes itself. In other words, you will grow thick enough of a skin that you can handle the pain. It's kind of like what Attar says, "Ishq dar daryai gham ghamnak neest." Initially, when you put your toes in the ocean of sorrow, you say, oh, this is too much. But then you say, well, maybe I should just go ankle deep. And you say, oh, it's too much. Then you say, maybe I should just go knee deep. You say, oh, well, it's too much, but it's getting better. I mean, it's sorrow, it's painful. And the problem with sorrow is that you can no longer have fun with anything. I mean, it's like laughter just disappears from your soul. All you have are just tears and pain and longing and yearning and loneliness and despair. Like Job, you just live in darkness, It's what they call Shab Yalda, the longest night of the year. That, the sun never rises, it just never comes your way. It's always just dark. But there is something about you that enjoys the sorrow, that despite the fact that your toe says, get the hell out, you say, no, let me just go ankle. And despite both toe and ankle say, get out, you say, no, let me go knee deep. And little by little you realize, man, this is such a nice ocean to swim in sorrow. It makes me profoundly self-sufficient. I don't need anybody because no one can really make me happy. I don't need to read books because I can write poetry. I don't need to fall in love with some person and they leave me and I cry. I just have enough sorrow inside me where I can just cry at will. And you really become like Hoska. And this particular sorrow for someone like Attar, is connected to love. It has to be the right kind of love. And I think one of the things that good teachers like Idris Shah, like Bhai Sahib do is that they first, if you pay attention, Daughter of Fire, Irina loves him. That's a great trick because you need that. You need this person to love you. And when they love you, now they're ready to make sacrifices. Now you can play with them. And Bhai Sahib plays with Irina. He takes everything away from her, everything. She becomes completely dependent on this man. And little by little, he teaches her how to detach. And there are moments in the book where he looks at her and says, I'm going to die, and you got to figure this out on your own. And she goes home, she says, I just can't do this. Why the hell does he talk to me in this way? And then he dies. She's been seasoned, and then he dies. She takes about 5 or 6 years of a break. And then when the break is over, she comes out. She's resurrected. But the point is, this sorrow has to be connected to the right longing. This longing has to be connected to the right kind of a love. This love must be towards the right kind of a person. And as long as you have that, that's fine. The other thing about longing is all your desires disappear except that one that creates good longing inside you. And it's a devastating place to be because no other desire can satisfy you. And the problem with longing is you have no power. You can't go to the person or the thing and say, listen, I want you. Can you want me back? It doesn't work that way, which makes it even more frightening and more frustrating. And somehow, if I suppose the flame of love is strong enough, you'll just hang on. It really devastates a good amount of things in your life as you're just moving through this. And it also may be the case that you may get nothing. But you don't even have to worry about that because again, our mechanism, the way we are wired as human beings is that little by little, the intensity will dim. I think when you read the Gospel of Matthew or the Gospel of Luke, the temptations are about that, where Satan says to him, turn the stones into bread and people will follow you. And when he says no, I want people to understand and follow me because he understands that how longing can be destructive, how the spiritual quest could counter one's physical life and how it could damage it. And he doesn't want to tempt people, he doesn't want to bait people, he doesn't want to say, okay, I'm a magician, let me show you what I can do, and then have these people follow when they don't have the capacity, when they're far too attached to their wives and their kids and their husbands and their life. Because once you follow Jesus and you realize the magic inside him, but you can't get to that magic yourself, what happens is you don't have Jesus, your longing is not answered. And you know that when you go back to life, it's going to be relatively fake. And now you have neither of these worlds, and it's devastating. And for the most part, he just desires to remain invisible. He says, no, I'm not going to trick anyone. You find my door, you knock on it. And if I'm home, I'll open it. But I'm not going to go out of my way to come looking for you, to tell you come. It doesn't work that way. And this gradual understanding is really, really good. because it slowly forces you into awareness what's at stake. And so your longing, to some extent, remains protected. Longing it's a mysterious world of all sorts of conflicting emotions. That's what longing is. When to some extent you have found the object of your desire and the longing dissipates, when you live in what you have obtained, you don't long for it anymore. You have it, and then you understand it. Once you understand it, even when it disappears, your longing has a different quality to it. Let's say, even in ordinary circumstances, let's say you long to have a boyfriend, for example, or a girlfriend, or a car, whatever it is that you desire intensely, then you get it. Now, it would just be very strange for you to have the Tesla and keep longing for what you have. You have it, there is no longing. What happens then, as you drive your car, there is this union between your desire and the desire being achieved, the object of your desire. And slowly they merge. And so your longing and the object become one and the same, and you're riding it. There comes a point where you just no longer care for it. You know how it drives, you know how many miles it goes, you know how long it takes to charge it. And then that longing goes away and you have another kind of longing for another kind of a thing.